You're starting it even though you're eating. What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Subhuman Rants. I'm Rick Harrison, and this is my pawn shop. Um,
And I'm Chum Lee.
Welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed our last video. If you haven't already watched it, definitely, it'll be tagged somewhere on the video. You can definitely take a look at that. Again, I'm here with my friend Trey. So today we are going to talk about Star Wars, and I'll let Trey kind of explain what we're doing.
So this was my idea. So what we're going to talk about is our favorite Star Wars movies are not necessarily our favorite because it looks the best or maybe it drives the plot for the rest of them. It sets up the rest of the story. It just ties it all together. Like the series wouldn't feel complete without this movie in my mind. And so, Anthony, take it away.
All right, so we're going to do this the way that George Lucas intended. We're going to start from the middle, and then we're going to go back to the beginning. Then we're going to go to the end.
The catch is at the end, though. We're not writing it as any of the movies with Rey. We're not doing the third trilogy, if you will.
I thought we were doing that.
No, we're doing the Disney adaptation. So that includes Solo and Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
Any of the movies after Disney took over.
All right. So starting from the original trilogy, so 4, 5, 6, I think it's a very hard one. As far as my personal favorite goes, it's probably going to be Return for me.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's not something that, as far as Return goes, Empire is what a lot of people will go to. Like, Empire is what, everyone's going to say is their favorite from the original trilogy. Well, most people are going to say. My thing with Empire is more or less like, the way that I tend to watch movies and the way I like, what I'm doing, I really like the first movie normally. The first movie is normally like, ends up being my favorite because you see kind of how everything is starting to shape as the trilogy is going to go on, or this however many they're going to make. So you kind of see the world that's where everything is happening and how everything is happening. So like, for instance, with A New Hope or Episode 4, you kind of see just if this is the first movie that you've watched, you haven't watched any of the other Star Wars movies yet, you kind of see...
Which is how it would have been back in 79.
Exactly. So if you, by looking at that, it's late 70s, I know that.
Yeah.
But basically the way that those movies would have played out, you see that the way that the galaxy is, the shape that it's in, it's not really the best. You see that all this money is coming from, all the money that's kind of in the galaxy is with the Empire. You see a lot of poverty. You see a lot of, like, if you look at the props and the way that they've designed everything, it's made to look like it's run down, it's beaten. You have to use old droids. Like, look at, Uncle Owen, they're buying those old droids off of the Jawas. But,
Jawas.
but no, I mean, normally I like that first movie. However, the reason why I like Return is that's watching it, the whole saga as a whole. It's the conclusion that we needed. Anakin comes back to the light. He fights off the evilness of Darth Vader within, and defeats the Emperor that way. And I feel like by watching that movie, even if you haven't watched the prequels, watching that movie, you get this justification and you see that there's good in Anakin. And it's not just this, I mean, the way that it was portrayed was Darth Vader was supposed to be this badass that would just kill, Jedi, kill friggin' his own guys, But the way that the movie ended up making it seem was like, okay, so there is a good person in here who does care about Luke. even though he honestly really doesn't know him that well. But yeah, I mean that's why I like Return anyways. So we'll go with Trey.
I think the reason that this is such a hard this one in particular, this saga is the one that's the hardest to look at is because there was never a plan, right? So they wrote A New Hope, and originally that was just titled Star Wars, one and done. They were not planning on a sequel. If they got the funding, they'd do it, but that wasn't the original plan. It was going to be a standalone movie. And in my opinion, A New Hope is fantastic. It's such a powerful movie because it sets the entire tone. There's been nothing on Star Wars up until this point when this movie's written. So it completely builds this world. It doesn't only build the world in the sense that it gives out species and it gives out conflict and good guys, bad guys. It gives out little details too, like the Kessel Run. Like I remember when I was a kid watching A New Hope for like maybe the second or third time, and all I could think of was, what the hell's the Kessel Run? I want to know more about that. And then you get Solo, years and years and years later. But I just, I, A New Hope is a great start to any saga. It's probably one of the best examples to a great start because it creates your entire atmosphere. Now, if you go to Empire, it has all of the character development for those characters. You start to see Han start caring more. Like obviously towards the end of A New Hope, he comes back and helps them, but he genuinely cares. He stays with the Resistance. You've got Luke. New Hope sets goals. That's all it is. He knows he has to become a Jedi. They know they have to blow up the Death Star. All of this stuff. They realize they have to help the Resistance. Moving forward and going to Empire, you have those goals meeting reality, where you have Luke going and meeting Yoda. You have Han going to Cloud City and trying to get help from a buddy of his. You get introduced to bounty hunters. Like Empire just ties it all together for me. And I couldn't imagine Empire being written another way and giving the full experience that you get in Star Wars. You know?
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that Empire is your favorite?
Yes, it's my favorite. I
Yeah.
think the saga would be completely different if Empire was written differently.
Oh, it definitely would. And actually, that was something else that I just watched a video on, where it was talking about George Lucas's original plan. Um, he never originally planned on uh, Darth Vader being Luke's father. That was originally not the plan. It was going to go with the whole thing where Darth Vader had killed Anakin Skywalker. That was the original plan from the get-go with George Lucas. And one thing I do want to say, though, is from what I've read, George Lucas did have all of Star Wars kind of planned out in his head. I mean, he didn't go as far as the completed product in his head when he started with A New Hope. Obviously, that things changed between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but he did have the whole thing planned as, even in the process of the original trilogy, he had already planned out exactly how the Clone Wars was going down. Obviously, minus the fact of Darth Vader and Anakin being the same person. But
Yeah.
the last thing I do want to add to that, though, is George Lucas. I watched the interview. I think it was on the Clone Wars. The DVD, there was like a whole thing where George Lucas talks for a while, and he discusses the whole point of trilogy. So the way that George Lucas sets up a trilogy is that you've got the first one, introduces you to the characters. The second one, the bad guy wins. And then the third one, good prevails, evil's, vanquished and whatnot. But I really love the way that he sets up that trilogy. It doesn't always go that way if you watch, all these other movies that have trilogies and whatnot. But as far as at least the first two Star Wars trilogies go, he did set it up that way. And I really think that's a great call, and I really love the way that he does set that up.